Before we can route the cable through the frame, we have to add the cable guides. The set of cable guides with one hole is for the front derailleur through the boom. The set of cable guides with two holes is for rear derailleur and brake through the rear half of the frame. We'll go ahead and fish one of these through the cable so that once the cable is through the frame, it will be ready for us to install. And as you fish the cable through, you can add rotational force to change where the tip of the cable is poking through the frame and actually get it to line up and come right through the hole. If you're having difficulties with that, you just want to fish the cable long enough by measuring out, okay, from where my fingers are at, the cable should be all the way down to the boom, through the boom rather. Fish it down, and I'm really good so it comes right through the hole, but you may need to use a machinist's pick to fish down in the hole, grab the cable and pull it up and out. Once it's through, you want to add your second cable guide and actually fish your housing through. Now to mount your cable guide, to slide it over the housing and into the knock, and it should snap into place. You can now put the housing into the cable stop, which will require making a sharp bend, starting the housing into the cable guide and pulling up on the cable while pushing the housing into it, and you just want to wiggle a little bit so it gets nice and firm into the stop. As you adjust your boom length to fit yourself to the bike properly, you will have to potentially adjust the length of this cable to keep your management up here in line, where down here looks a lot cleaner. That if I pull this boom way in, it's going to put a lot of extra cable up here, so you may need to trim down this cable. If you don't have capabilities to do that, a local bike shop can help you out. It's one of the reasons why we ask for an X-seam measurement, so we can get this boom approximately right, and we can get this cable so that's close enough so that even if you move your boom a ½ inch or so, or an inch, it's not going to change the cable management so much that it'll make the bike look bad. But as you change the length, the cable will get snagged on the inside of this cable guide here. So as you pull that boom in, you do want to help the cable slide through freely so you don't get snagged and potentially kink the housing. We will now show the other way to route your cable through your frame, and that's by routing the housing rather than the cable. Some people like this method because it is more stiff, so it is easier to manipulate, but you still want to have the curve on the end of it so you can manipulate where it's going inside that tubing. And it doesn't matter whether you start from the back and work forward or forward and come back, but what you want to do is keep an idea as to where your cable is. Right now I know that my curve is facing upwards, and I actually have to, there's a bolt going through the frame, and I want to go above that bolt and into that hole. So I will start, and I'm leaving the cable housing run down the top of the frame. There's interference with the bolt, and we're over top of it. And with my rotating, I can see that there's my housing. And there it is. Nice and easy. If you can't get the curve to match up to the frame properly, you can use your machinist's pick to actually hook the inside of the housing and apply pressure against your hook and be able to really manipulate where that's at. So even if you need a flashlight to see the housing down inside, you can really use it to get the housing up and out of the frame. We do have to do both the brake and the derailleur. So again, we want to add that curve to the housing. And attempt to snake it through. Brake housing isn't nearly as rigid as shift housing, so this one will be a little bit easier. Your curve is not as easily manipulatable. As you route your cables through your bike, depending on where your cable's going, whether to a disc brake or to a caliper brake, you may find that you want your brake housing on the bottom of this and your derailleur on the top. Realistically, from a function standpoint, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt the actual cable routing itself, whether the brake's on the top or the bottom. It's more up to personal preference, how you think looks best for actually routing where these go. That's the basics to routing cables through a MetaBike.